Hi, friend.
How are you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I
How was
see
your
you're
week?
at Hotel June.
I am at Hotel June this week. Home away from home. That's for sure.
Did you take a shower yet?
I'm on the 8th floor. It's a good
So
water
that means,
pressure floor.
so that's good water pressure, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, how's your week been?
Good. Really good.
Yeah, good.
I can't believe it's almost Thursday. Week is almost over.
I had to pause and think about what day it is, but you're
I
right.
know.
It is Wednesday. Wow.
And then you didn't say anything. And then I had to pause and think, oh my God, am I on the right day?
I feel like when I'm in Los Angeles, I never know what day it is. So
you're
that's
like in a time warp. Well, because you're out of your whole norm thing.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. So, hey, I thought we could start the episode with a WTF moment today.
Yeah. Do you have one?
Yeah, I do. I have a really crazy one. So
okay, good.
Just started this new product at work, and it's really kind of this encompassing of like doing total scans and labs and all the stuff. And anyways, we're in the very beginning of this, and we're like doing beta patients. So what does that mean? We're doing some free patients to kind of learn about stuff. Well, one of my patients came through and really cool, but we identified some things with him that he had no idea about. And so, things like a clogged widowmaker, which is like a drop dead type of scenario. And you can talk to me more about it because you know way more about it than I do.
Hence the name Widowmaker.
The name, right? But really grateful
if you're married.
He came through and that we were able to identify that and like work on towards next steps. And so it was a crazy holy shit moment in that we found this, but then at the same time, like a crazy grateful moment that that these people are coming through and I get to be part of something so amazing to help people identify
That's
issues.
awesome. It's a man. It's a dad.
Yeah. Young.
Wow. Healthy though, generally.
Yeah. Super active, super healthy. Like literally didn't expect to find anything.
So it's interesting that you say that about the widowmaker. My dad, very healthy. He's probably the healthiest out of all his siblings and very, very active. And my dad's side of the family kind of has a chubby gene. Overweight. We're Mexican, and the carbs and the tortillas and just the diet isn't great, and has a chubby gene basically. But he was not the chubby one. He was always very thin and active. But crazily enough, he's a little stubborn. But just recently, I don't know. Probably a year ago now. Has it been a year? I don't know. He had triple bypass.
Whoa.
And we have a significant history of cardiac disease in the family on both sides, on both my grandpa and my grandma. And the way they found this is that he needed hernia surgery. So of course they did an EKG, and he was very, what we call bradycardic all the time, but everybody just chalked it up because he was so healthy and in good shape. So his heart rate being like literally 40s to 50s was his baseline norm. Go to the doctor, they would say, oh, it's because you're in good shape, and kind of a runner's heart type thing, right? And there was no issues, never shortness of breath, never chest pain that he would say. Just felt, he's in his early 70s. And so he was just like, oh, I'm tired, and that's just the way it is. I'm older now and things like that, but still plays basketball every Sunday. So things like this, right?
I love that.
And then they're like, oh, we just want to make sure that your heart's okay. So then they send him to a cardiologist. And then that's when this wow moment came where they did the scans, and they're like, you've got 3 occluded vessels, one being that bad one, like 90% kind of thing. And no, you couldn't do stents because it was too far gone. So he needed triple bypass. And so I think my question for you and, friends that are listening here is one of those things that if you get your routine health checks, and people will say this all the time, I go to my doctor, I get my physical every year. But what happens is either the doc is not listening or asking the right questions, and the patient isn't telling you anything about anything, right? So in my dad's case, kind of a stoic guy, never had chest pain, never thought of the normal cardiac thing. And then after my grandmother's diabetic, my grandpa had bypass. They both had pacemakers. My grandpa's brother died of a heart attack. And so if a primary care physician hears that medical history,
Right.
you would think that just routinely they're going to go send you for a cardiac workup as a baseline.
Nope.
And I think some do and some don't. But I think, it's one of these things where here's a PSA for everybody listening is that it's kind of like, hey, you kind of, again, as we've talked about, this recurring theme is that you kind of have to be your own advocate and say, I've got a really strong family history here. And I think I just want to get either a stress test or a EKG or an echo or whatever the case may be, because you just never know.
Yeah.
And in my dad's case, it just completely went over his head. And
That's
so
crazy.
I think, for your friends, I wonder if his primary care physician, he should have at least had a conversation. And maybe there's no cardiac history. Who knows? And maybe this was a great, great find. But I just feel like the diabetics and the heart and even thyroid or whatever it is, I think it's such an important thing. Cancers, it's such an important thing for if your physician is not asking those questions, you kind of have to just say it. And just, you don't know if it's anything related to you, but hey, my mom had this, my mom's sister had this, my grandmother had this, my grandpa had this. And let that primary care physician sort of kind of understand that you're asking for it, or just come out and ask it. I mean, it is what it is.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's very, very
crazy.
cool. But and then for women, we talked about women's health, how women usually present differently, right? And friends, I don't know if you guys all know this, but many, many times when I was in school, it was the presentation of the woman coming in with heartburn, and they would treat them with heartburn and antacids and over-the-counter omeprazole or Prilosec. And it was actually a heart issue. It was already a heart condition. Or they would treat you for gallbladder or whatever. So women present differently in so many ways, in so many different diseases. And so sometimes, you can't be fooled. And so hopefully people understand that and kind of say, okay. I'm not to say that every time you have heartburn, you're having a heart issue.
Totally.
But, it's one of those things where if you continue to have these things, and maybe it's not just heart issues, maybe you didn't have spicy food one day and now you're having these things. So it's one of those things.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was out to dinner the other night with a physician cardiologist, and she was saying she's very passionate about women's health and cardiology because it's such an area that enough people don't talk about, and that's what's really cool about it and gets us really excited is how can we put more focus on, in general, knowledge to people out there about what to watch for, or maybe things to advocate for, but then also for women to know, hey, these are things within your body that you should be thoughtful of.
Sure.
Looking back now on his EKG, he was bradycardic. Oh my God. It's the afternoon.
Slow heart rate.
He had a slow heart rate, but very 59. 56, 59. Yeah. So nothing too exciting, right? Yeah. But looking back now, you're like, that makes a lot of sense. So
it could,
Could.
I mean, I don't know. One of my best friends, she's a runner and her heart rate is continuously low too. Yeah. And now that we're talking, I'm like, you better maybe go get your heart checked. But it is true. If you're a real runner and if you're really in good shape, you're going to have a lower heart rate. You have less stress in your heart. So it's more efficient, I guess, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. So very rewarding moment. One, it's exciting to see this new program kind of get off the ground, but then two, to right away know that we did something and found something that wasn't found. And it really can, have this person continue to be in their world where they want to be and can, get the care that he needs to stay in that world.
Well, and it's so exciting with the medical technology that we have now. I mean, it's crazy. You want to talk about detection. So it was just recently Easter, and my mom is, one of these days you're going to actually meet my mom in person. You're going to be like, I feel like I know you. I know so much about you. I know all your little things. And she's pretty educated about health, and she's a healthy person, and she'll do plant-based diet, or she'll read, she brought corn and it was frozen, and we forgot to make the corn because we put it in the freezer, and she was like, no more canned things. And I'm like, really? Because my entire pantry is cans, but okay. Like, I don't know. I feel like if I'm going to die from canned corn, so be it. I don't know. Right. But
Yeah.
that's
And you
mom.
were probably raised on canned corn and you
Yes.
were fed that in your formative years.
Yeah. The Del Monte sweet corn. No, a little light salt, that kind of thing. Yes, 100%.
Totally.
I strain the juice and put a dollop of butter in it. It's yummy.
Absolutely.
Really yummy.
Yeah. Delish.
Yeah. And so she was saying how the BRCA gene, the BRCA gene, in breast cancer, and apparently, and I wanted to research this a little bit, and so I'm not sure if she really knew the whole science behind it, but apparently, men can carry this gene.
Absolutely.
Did you? So you know about this?
Absolutely.
I was completely clueless about this.
Yes.
But it so happened that the lineage on this one family members on my cousin's husband's side, apparently his brothers are carrying the gene, and it's passed to the daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And the daughters have breast cancer.
Yeah.
And nobody detected this because the moms doesn't have this and there's no issues, but the dads were tested and they have this gene.
That's crazy.
And so, I mean, why doesn't anybody know that? Well, why doesn't anybody do that anymore? I mean, breast cancer is so prevalent.
Yep.
And it's so treatable if you get it early, obviously. But just with that slight knowledge of knowing that men carry this gene, why doesn't medicine know this more?
Right. Absolutely. And men can actually end up with breast cancer from
I know that.
Right.
But I never really put two and two together, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. That's part of why this new program that I'm launching has a genetic component where we are testing for this, because I'm very passionate about you being, if we're going to talk about really making data-informed decisions of our bodies and how we move forward, knowing your genetics for key components like BRCA are super important, right? Because not only is it you, but your future children, or if you have children and all of that stuff too. Yeah, it's interesting, like when we talk about this, because something that I really am passionate about long-term is like building a breast center that feels inclusive for men. Because this is something for men too.
I mean, listen, men are getting Botox and they're getting laser hair and they're getting, why not?
And there's so many breast centers that are like pink and Chanel gowns and chandeliers and everything is so like pink, 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 right? And so if I'm a man who has to go through this and have a mastectomy and all of those things, like I don't want to be in a pink center. I, as a girl, don't even want to be in a pink center, So
what color would we give the boys? What would we give it, like a light blue?
I would build it like I build my clinics today, to look like a comfy coffee shop and feel very like warm and like home. And that's what I would build. So,
like, would we give him like a gown that looks like a golf shirt that opens in the front? Something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, there's our next idea.
A golf shirt gown.
Gowns for men that look comfy or whatever.
Yeah. It's interesting right now. I'm on the hunt for a good robe, because I want to give robes to people in this program as what they wear instead of a gown.
Yeah.
It is really hard to find a great robe. That's
so listen,
unisex.
You know who I'm going to ask? I'm going to ask my mom, because my mom is a robe person.
Okay.
Like she tried so hard to get me to be a robe person, and I'm not. I am not a robe and slippers person. It's weird.
Okay.
I mean, I do like slippers, but not robes.
Ask your mom if she can help me out, because I'm out in the market looking for a unisex robe, and they aren't. Like I'm striking out. So tell your madre.
Yeah. That's funny. She's going to have a field day with this.
I love that.
She's going to look at it. And oh, interesting. Yeah. So I thought it was super crazy about the BRCA gene, because I really just never put two and two together, and I knew it was very rare. We learned about it too, but I didn't know that, because that there's some genetic components that are only passed from dad to kid. They carry it, like hemophilia, right?
Yeah.
So that's one. And I just had no idea.
Yeah. My last company that I worked for, is base of the company was genetic counseling and genetic testing. And that's where I started to really learn more about it. I honestly didn't know much about what a genetic counselor was or what their role was or what their education was until I started to work there. And it's really cool. Like the stuff that they learn in their training and their education and the amount of knowledge that they
The
tell
big bees and
people
the little
is
bees.
big bees, little bees. If this is this is what you should do. You
Yeah.
should be aware of this. Like it was
Yeah.
really amazing. So talking back about your dad, like
Yeah.
once he had the surgery to like clear the blockages, what is the advice that they give him moving forward? And do you need to worry about this?
So yeah, I mean, I have a strong cardiac history, as I mentioned, but when I was,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, I was feeling my heart in my chest. It like I was at rest and I would feel my heart beat like crazy. And I would actually feel it kind of flutter or kind of it skip a beat. I felt some sort of a weird heart rhythm. I didn't know what it really was. And then I'd look at my Apple Watch because you know how it does the EKG. And I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to see what it is. And then I would do the Apple Watch and the EKG and I'd hold it for 30 seconds. And then it'd be like rhythm, like it'd come back with something that means that it was a weird rhythm that they didn't know what it was and like try again kind of thing. So I was like, okay, let me try again. But it was consistently happening. And I'm like, oh my God, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then I'm at work completely on. I wasn't walking. I wasn't doing anything. And then all of a sudden I got a notification on my Apple Watch and I looked at it and it was like heart rate detected. And it was like 38. And I was like, what? Why is my heart rate 38? Like I'm not even doing anything. But I didn't feel faint. I didn't feel short of breath. I didn't feel sweaty. I didn't feel anything. But then I was like, oh no, like I had this weird heart palpitation. I had this like 38 heart rate. Like what is going on?
Yeah.
So it scared me a little bit
Yeah.
because I was like, what is going on? I went to the cardiologist and luckily since I work so closely to all these doctors, it was pretty easy for me to get in and I texted her and she was like, come on in. And my EKG was fine, but they gave me a Holter monitor. And they basically said I had a bunch of PVCs, which are so, ventricular contractions. And they're normal. There's a certain amount that's normal that everybody has that you don't feel. And they do this Holter monitor where they monitor your heart for, I think it was like 7 to 10 days. And you wear it right in the middle of your chest and you can shower with it and all that stuff. And then you send it back in the mail and then they read it and then they give you the diagnosis. But for these PVCs, it was literally like I could feel my heart. It was just a very unnerving kind
That's
of
scary.
anxious feeling. And then I would feel anxious about it. So then I'm like, okay, is this anxiety? And then that's another thing with heart, right? Like you feel chest pain, you go to the ER, everything's fine. They're like, you had an anxiety attack. And you're like, well, I'm not an anxious person. And that's the other thing. It's like, it's such a bad connotation to say, oh, you have an anxiety panic attack. Well, no, it's like, it's not a bad thing. Like it is what it is. It just happens.
Totally.
And they wanted to do a stress test, but they actually sent me for one of those the calcium score tests.
Yep.
So it's a CT scan, a CAT scan of your chest, and it looks to see how many, or if you have any sort of calcifications in your blood vessels. And it gives you a score from 0 to 100. Obviously, the higher you are towards 100, the more calcifications you have.
Right.
And my score was like a 2. So it was good. And I was happy about that. But I know that I have a cardiac history. So going forward, I'm going to make sure that I follow up appropriately, especially for things like my dad, who was kind of sort of asymptomatic. And whether or not he was really asymptomatic looking back at it, was that fatigue, was that whole like feeling tired and just maybe a little short of breath. Was it old age? Was it his age? Or was it really his heart? And that's
totally,
it's like, hindsight is 20/20 because you don't know what you're feeling. Everybody just chalks it up to old age, aches and pains. I'm getting older.
Absolutely.
I'm not as spry as I was, but it might be something else. And I think there's a fear too of knowing what it is if it's something else as well.
Absolutely. Well, that was going to be one of my questions is like when you start to feel that way, a lot of people will just say, you're anxious. That's what it is. You're fine. Right. And so did you sit there and think all of that of like, oh, this is anxiety or is this anxiety or am I going crazy?
Being in medicine, I think I screw myself because think about it, right? You and I have seen crazy stuff and we see it all day long and we see it to people that we're like, what? How the heck? Right? So we see that all day long. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go get this checked out. I'm not going to chalk it up to like I'm old or I'm stressed or whatever. because I've seen so much. And I think that that's actually a bad thing, because I think that I create a lot of that stress because I've seen it versus someone else who's super benign.
That's hilarious.
Like my husband, Chad, like Chad. Chad is like, okay. Like my dad was short of breath standing to, maybe there's something going on. Like, dude.
That's crazy.
You couldn't shave because you were short of breath. So, or that doctor saying, well, there's a flu going around in Kansas. That might just be it. No, it's not.
Exactly.
So I think that if you're not in this medicine and you see all this crazy stuff, you kind of just don't know. And that's a lot of people.
But my kids will tell you that they sometimes don't like that I'm in medicine because I discount things a lot. I'll be like, you're fine. That's not whatever.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah.
That's just a cold, right? And so my kids are always like, man, we're going to have to be like ready to go to the hospital before mom will take us to the doctor. Cause she's always like, I just diagnose them. And I'm like, you're good. Don't worry about it.
This is what your kids need to do. They
fine.
have a pulse ox on hand, right? Everyone had a pulse ox during COVID. Then when they feel short of breath, they're going to do a pulse ox and be like, Mom, listen, I'm at 90% O2 saturation. I'm not fine. It's not going to get better. Something else is going on.
That's so true. My daughter literally was like, when she was little, she was on like a skateboard. And I told her, I don't want you to ride that skateboard because you're going to fall and you're going to break your arm. And sure enough, the minute I leave the house to go run errands, she's home with dad, she falls and like hurts her arm. And
Dad's watch. Dad's watch.
Like, exactly. And I'm like, you're totally fine. I get home. I'm like, you're fine. You're fine. The skateboard had like hit her arm. And so I was like, it's not broken. It might just be sore. And she's like, okay. And so for a couple of days, she's kind of babying it. And I'm like, oh, come on, toughen up. You got this. You're fine. A couple of days later, she's like, Mom, is it normal if I like rub my forearm that my whole hand goes numb? And I'm like, oh, nope, that's not normal.
Mom, is it normal that my arm is super swollen and I can't feel my fingers?
Yes.
And if I stuck a barometer in my arm, it would have increased pressures. And now they're going to put my arm off because I have compartment syndrome.
She did have compartment syndrome.
Oh my God. That is terrible.
Terrible parenting. She full on had compartment syndrome.
Wow.
Yeah. Because the way the skateboard hit, it had like a metal rod and it whacked right on that space. Mm-hmm.
Oh my word. How
Terrible.
bad did you feel?
Oh, awful. I felt terrible. So now I am a little bit better about not being like, you're fine.
Now you just rule out compartment syndrome for everything.
I do. I'm like, you're good. Yeah.
That is too funny. Oh my God.
Terrible. I know. My husband tends to be more the person who's like, oh my gosh, I self-diagnosed myself.
You know why? That's
I was on Google MD today and a scientist, right? So he already has that like mindset. And he's like, I Google MD'd myself today and I'm pretty sure I have this and this. And I think it's this. And I'm pretty sure I have this. And I'm like, I don't think it's any of that, babe. I really don't think it's that. But then he'll go to the doctor just to get it checked. And no. Well, the other thing that's really funny about him is he always wants to go to the best doctors in the market, right? So like one time he could have sworn he tore his ACL and he's like, I have to go to the best doctor. So he goes literally to like a doctor who's known for treating professional athletes for the guy to tell him he has a little bit of arthritis.
Oh my God. Like $500 later, $5,000 later, right?
Yeah. So I wonder how many of our friends here that are listening to us have these kind of funny stories, right? Because there's always the story about like man flu versus female flu, like that kind of thing. But you wonder like how many people can sit here and crack up about this, or if it's truly a medical community that understands how goofy we are about like being either too quick to respond or like too laissez-faire. Well, I love that we just kind of talked about multiple things about the whole body, but I think that's so interesting. And it was such a today was cool. To be like, whoa,
I can imagine
found something pretty cool, and exciting about it. So,
I mean, talk about making a like literal difference in someone's life. Like you just did that today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's in medicine, that's it sounds cliche, but most people get into medicine because they want to make a difference in someone's life.
Absolutely.
And I believe throughout my career, I've definitely made differences in people's lives, not necessarily saving them, but at least giving them a little bit more of whatever it is that I did for them, either, personally and or physically and or, doing a good closure, giving them a good bandage. I don't know, whatever it is, but you definitely touched someone's life and made it better. 100%. And,
it was a great day.
And your employees too,
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's very cool.
It was a great day. I mean, great. And, obviously this person has some things we need to do from this, but yet again, to know we have a plan, and know where we're headed is very
Which is
exciting.
half the battle.
Absolutely. So as we end out tonight, I thought it would be really great for us to do our gratitude moment.
Absolutely. You go first.
Well,
putting you on the spot.
I like you going first. I am grateful for modern day technology to be able to do the work that it did today for our patient. I am grateful for the yummy soup that I had at dinner at Hotel June. Some pozole, can't go wrong. And I am grateful for, I was grateful to get to see a lot of my coworkers in person today. There's something to be said for getting to be in person sometimes when you work for remote. So what about you?
Okay. So I'm grateful because last night I had a conversation with my son and he was like, "Hey mom, if I don't become a baseball player," and I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "There's some really cool jobs that I can do that I think I'd like to do." And I was like, "Of course there are." And I was grateful that I was trying to think about it I'm like, is he giving himself an out because he doesn't think he's going to make it in the big leagues?
Yeah.
And or is he realizing that, hey, if I don't make it in the big leagues, this is my plan B. Yeah. And so I'm grateful that he's thinking at 13 years old that there may be a plan B. And he's kind of thinking of that because I think that that's so great and half the battle so I was grateful for that.
That's awesome.
I was grateful that I bought a body pillow at Costco the other day that is cooling. So
nice.
Yeah. So when you hug it, if it gets warm, you can flip it around and you can get cool. Yeah.
Ooh.
So I was
that's wonderful.
And I was in conjunction with that. It was only $14.99.
Nice. That's a win.
And my last grateful thing was today I saw a patient. She was in the hospital. Surgery was yesterday and I rounded on her and she was not expecting me to go see her. And she was so happy that I saw her and she hugged me and she was like, you were so, and talk about making a difference in people's lives. She was like, "You were so great. I was so scared before and I had a terrible recovery after." And she went through a tough recovery after. And she's like, "And I just appreciate you so much. And I just want to thank you." And I was like, "Oh, I was grateful for that." It was
so
really
awesome.
cool. Yeah, it was really cool.
It's always so rewarding when you get to hear gratitude about something that you do. Yeah, you made an impact. Well, very cool. Well, it was so great to see you this evening and have a great week. Okay.
Alrighty. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Talk to you later.